Hello, my name is Jeff, this is Corey, and today we're going to be interviewing Mr. McConnachie here at the Cambridge Narrows Regional Library, today October 28th, 2010. Let's go inside and listen to Mr. McConnachie's stories. Mr. McConnachie, it was 1923 when you were born. What is your earliest memory as a young child?
I think it was when I was around 4 or 5. I had a baby carriage and I put my oldest brother in it, or he got in it. And I was pushing him, so I pushed him down the hill, and of course it got away on me, and it kind of crashed up anyway. And he got hurt a little bit. He lived through it. It wasn't life-threatening. But when Mother found out, of course, I was in the doghouse, and she took an axe and she broke the carriage all to pieces. At the end of my...
Are there any family stories told about you when you were a baby?
No, the old mother used to tell a story about it. She thought I never slept because every time she went into the room, my eyes were open. I wasn't crying or anything, but I just...
Can you share with us about your family while you were growing up?
Yeah, it was a family. It was four of us kids, and father and mother, and we had quite a quiet life. We lived on the farm, and we didn't do too much traveling then. We stayed home, and most of our thing was done around the farm. And we had, sister was the oldest, and she always thought she was a boss. So we had some fights once in a while.
Can you share with us about how your mother and father support your family?
Yes, they were farmers, and we lived pretty well right off the land. We had cows and hens, and pigs, I guess. And we pretty near lived off that. We milked the cow and sold cream. Mother made butter, in fact, and we went to get groceries. We walked up to the store and had eggs and butter, and that's the way we got our groceries. And if there was any change coming back, if it was under 5 cents, like 3 or 4 cents, we got to keep the change. But otherwise, we had to bring the money back home.
What is one of your closest memories of your family?
Well, when we came here first, of course, it was Depression time, and things were pretty poor around everywhere. And generally, Mother was very independent. She didn't want to get anything for nothing. But anyway, the Red Cross sent us a big parcel of stuff around Christmas time, and we were just waiting to get into it. But Mother sent it back. She said she didn't want any charity. We didn't come here. We come here to work and earn our own living.
When you were growing up, did you have any electricity?
No electricity.
Did you have a phone back then?
When we came here, there was a phone in the house, and there was just one line, and it was called Mott line. It was a private line, but it was only one line, and everybody was on that line. It was on it. We wasn't on it, but the phone was still in the house, and we could listen when we heard the ring coming. We could listen what everybody was saying, but we didn't have a phone ourselves then when I was growing up. We didn't have a phone until I come back from overseas.
How old were you when you went to work, and where did you work?
I was 14 when I left school. I went to work with a Perry Craft over at Crafts Cove in Wickham.
Were there any events or people that led you to pursuing a particular career?
Yes, Hitler. He declared war on Britain, and we decided we come from there. We had to go back and protect them. Okay, I was 14 years old when I left home and started work on the farm down Crafts Cove, and he used me well. He worked me good and hard and paid me $7 a month. Of course, I got my board. And I worked there for a year, and then I moved over closer to home. I guess it was just McDonald's corner. And I got a big raise, and I got $10 a month. And then when Hitler declared war, well, we joined the army, and that's what started us off. And we didn't get much of a raise then. We got, I guess, I paid $7.50 a month then, 25 cents a day. And when we went overseas, we got danger pay then, and we got $15 a month.
How old were you when you started your family?
I was 26 years old when I got married. I didn't have the family started then.
What were some of the challenging or exciting events for you as you started out on your own?
Well, when our first child was born, 2.5 years later, a daughter called in. That was quite happy with that. And then Michael come along a year, 2 years after that. And then we had a little daughter married, born after that again. But she only lived 2.5 years, and that was the sorriest part of my life, I think.
Can you tell me about your education?
Yes, my education started at 2 years going to school in Scotland, and we moved here to Canada, Cambridge Narrows, just the narrow McDonald's Corner, I guess it was called then. And the first year, we didn't, our trip over and everything, we kind of lost a year going to school, so the next year we started, I started in grade 3, and we went then to, I got into grade 7, didn't finish grade 7 when I was 14, and I went to work, and that went on until the war broke out, and I joined the army then. I was turned down twice, I think, before I went in. They were too small, too young or something. But at last I made it. And I was in Fredericton for a couple of months training. Then we went to Camp Borden. It was supposed to be 2 months advanced training there. But I joined up in the Army Service Corps. But when I got there was a draft going overseas. They wanted, in the Medical Corps, they wanted people as quick as they could get it. So I joined the Medical Corps and headed overseas because I knew my brother could claim me back into the Army Service Corps. He was over there. I just got over there, and when they had the D raid went on, with the, we call it was suicide raid, and if it had lasted a day longer, I would have been in it, but I would always seem to be lucky. It was all over with, and I didn't have to go there. So after that, we went in England. We was in England about a year, I think, on defence, and then they decided to go to Sicily. So we went to Sicily, and that's when we started reel in the war. We went to Sicily, up through Sicily, into Italy, and when we were still fighting in Italy when the Second Front started, but after they went through France, that was the 1st Division, and 5th was in Italy. And once the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th was in France, it was pretty well all through France, and then decided to take the Canadian Army, put it all together, so they moved us from Italy back into France. Marseille, went across there, and invasion barges, and joined the rest of the Canadian Army. And then went up through Holland and everything, and into Germany, and that's where these medals come in. There's the defense medal, and the voluntary medal, and Italian star, and the French star, and I just forget what the other one is right now. I'd have to look it up. So I guess that's pretty well. After the war was over, we joined up for the Pacific War. So they give us 30 days leave, and we wanted to go right from there to the Pacific. That's what we didn't want to come home at all. But anyway, they give us 30 days home, and before the 30 days was up, they dropped the 2 bombs in Japan, and that ended the war. So we was home to stay then. These are the medals I got when I was in the army, and what they mean that whatever country you was fighting in, there was a medal for that country. And there's one that if you volunteered, the one, I think, on the middle one there, that's the volunteer medal. That's one you volunteered to join the army. You wasn't called in, you volunteered on your own.
When you were in school, have you ever gotten in trouble?
Oh yes, I got in trouble every once in a while. The first time I was blamed for somebody else that did it. And I would never squeal and say, it wasn't me, it was them. But I know I was up in class one time and I was in the end of the line and I was quite close to the teacher's desk, of course, and they had those little bells that you pushed and it would ring. So the guy gave me a push and of course I lost my balance and my hand hit the bell. And it took me right out. That was a lady teacher, took me right into the hallway and was going to give me a beating. And we thrashed and fought out there quite a while. And my sister, she got pretty worried about me. She thought I was getting an awful beating. But when the door opened, I came out smiling, and the teacher was crying. So I think I come off best that time.
What are some of the things you used to do when you were growing up?
For hobbies, I mean, for home, well, we skated some and skied, and that's about all there was to do then around. And besides helping my parents with the chores, we always had something to do. We always had our own thing to look after, bring in the wood or in the water or all that stuff. So, and real holidays, we maybe went to the woods with the father when it was big enough and thought we was helping them anyway.
What kind of pets or animals did you have growing up?
Well, we just had a dog for pet animals. We had animals. We had pigs, cows, hens. I guess that's about all we had from growing up. After I grew up and got married, we had a pig, and I always made a pet out of the pig. And it come time for the get it shot or killed, I had the stand all made for it. So the butcher come to kill the pig, and he said, "How are we going to get it up here?" I said, "I'll go down and tell it to come on up." It'll come up. So it walked right up to the slaughter box, and he up with the gun and shot it. Pig shook its head, headed back to his bed again down the shore. Then he said, "Now what are we going to do?" I said, "Well, I'll go down and do it once more. I think it'll come up for me." But I said, "You better make a good shot next time." So I went down. I told the pig to come on back up. I talked to it nice. I didn't tell it what was going to happen, but it come right back up again. He shot it that time. And that was the end of my pigs. I couldn't have any more after that.
When did you own your first vehicle?
I got my first vehicle in 1946. It was a 38 Chev car, and I wanted to buy a new vehicle when I come home from overseas, but we couldn't buy new vehicles then. They were a priority, and you had to have a job where you needed the vehicle for your work. So I bought a 38 Chev, and I think I paid $800 for it, and I imagine it was 38, 8 years old. And I think I paid more for it than I did when it was new, but that's the only one we could get.
Did you have any adventures involving vehicles?
Yes, I was working in Sussex then, and I was working 2 shifts of barbers. And I was boarding over there. I had a house rented, and Pauline and the kids come over this Friday night. They were going to have supper there for me. But everything was supposed to be there at 6 o'clock, but the boss come in, and I was working in the factory for barbers, and he kept me back, and at last I got a chance to go, and I headed out, had a Volkswagen car. I got out on which was the Transcanada then, it's the old Transcanada now, and I just got up to speed, and I met a car coming, so I tilted my lights, he tilted his, and there was something black right in front of me, just about 20 or 30 feet. And there was a farm tractor out on the road, right on the middle of the road. So naturally I put my brakes on, but it was wet and skids it, and I hit the hind wheel of his tractor, went right up over top of the tractor, hit the seat where he was sitting, drove him about 50 feet into a corn patch alongside the road, and I went right over top of the tractor, and I fetched up, and the Volkswagen was in pretty bad shape. The headlights were right close together, the seat was pulled apart, windshield was broke, so I was in pretty bad shape myself, but anyway, I got out of it and staggered back to where the tractor was, and the guy I met in the car, he was there out that time too. We said, "Where's the driver?" He said, "He must be underneath the tractor." And pretty soon we heard a voice come up over the bank. He says, "It was my fault, it was my fault, I didn't have any lights." And I can remember I was half stunned. I said, "Well, why in hell didn't you?" And then I went to the hospital anyway, and they sewed me up. No, they didn't sew me up. There was no doctor in Sussex. They just wiped the blood off my face and put a patch on. Went back in the next morning, and the doctor fixed me up.
Sit down. Okay. George, we understand that you owned a store in 1972. What was it like owning a business in the 70s?
Well, I liked the business, but it was a very hard business. Running stores them days, there was quite a bit of credit went out, and so you get credit out, and then you tried to get your money back in again. And some would pay you, some wouldn't. But I know one time I had more money out than I had on my own, but we come in after a while, and we got back, but it was one man come in there one time. They used to just have charge stuff, and there was 5-6 stores you could go to. There was three in Cambridge Narrows then. One had burned, so that left us 3. There was 4 before, but he would go to all those stores, and then he'd go over Jemseg, and lower Jemseg up to Jemseg, and went to Mill Cove. So he had me in my store for about 6 months, and he owed me $150. So he come up and he paid his bill one day, come back in again and paid his bill, and he says, and then he started picking stuff off the shelves again. And I said, I hope you have money, because I said, I don't give a credit anymore now. He said, if I'd known that, I would never have paid you. I said, that's the reason I didn't tell you. So he never come back. He was gone. But other than that, it was a hard life. Long hours. I opened the store 7 o'clock in the morning, as a rule, went down, get things ready, and it was going until, if everybody went, around 10 o'clock at night to close, and if there was still business in the summertime, I'd still keep going then. So it was kind of a hard life, but anyway, I made a few bucks on it. Then I sold the store and I retired.
What was the health care like growing up in Cambridge Narrows?
It was pretty grim. When I was growing up, there was no medical service, and we had a doctor most of the time, but you all had to pay for it yourselves. It was pay for everything, so we didn't go to a doctor anymore, and we could help. And if you operation or anything, the doctor would come to the house. I know there was 1 or 2 people got for appendicitis, and there was one lady died on the table. Like it wasn't the doctor's fault. They had ruptured before he got there. So you didn't go to a doctor anymore, and you had to. I know when I was working in the woods this time, and I had a blind boil in the back of my neck, and it was bothered me so bad. They get pretty bad before they burst themselves, but mine never burst. So I was working in the woods, and one night I got up and I walked the road all night. I couldn't sleep. It hurt so bad, so I went to work the next morning. I was yarding logs out then, and at noon I said to a guy, there was a couple of guys, Arthur Jones and Charitable J, they were cutting the logs, and I was yarding them out and was eating our dinner. And I said, Gerald, you could lance this boil. I can't stand it any longer. So he sharpened up his axe, and he lanced the boil, and that does leave me. Worked the rest of the day all right, but then I think blood poison started in my arm, so Arthur Jones's mother had poulticed and put poultice on it, and I'm still living today. We never went to a doctor. In fact, I was 70 years old when I first stayed in the hospital overnight. When I was a kid, I was thrown off a horse's back one time and cut my head and went to the doctor, but that was in Scotland. I got sewed up then and come right back home, and so I had a pretty good life of it.
Can you share about your Christmas holidays or any other events?
Yeah, my Christmas holidays, them days the holidays didn't mean too much. You didn't go too far because we was walking and you didn't. But if the weather was good and Christmas holidays, we'd do some skating if ice was real good. And once in a while, not every day, because we always had to do our own chores and help the parents. So our holidays weren't all holidays.
Can you share some interesting facts about your life or any highlights of your life?
Yeah. One thing I can remember this when I was younger, of course, and things were pretty hard going. And a next door neighbour, they were around selling apples. Apples was $1 a barrel then. They were quite cheap. And next door neighbour wanted apples, but he didn't have any money. So he came over and asked my father if he could borrow $1 to buy the apples. Father said, yeah, just go up and ask the missus. He didn't want to say. So the guy came over and he told mother that my father had told him to go there and that he'd lend her $1. Well, she gave him $1, and he went back and got the apples. And when the guy came to our place, we couldn't buy any apples because that was the last $1 she had. So that was gone. And then the other highlights I had when we went to China on a trip. That was after I'd grown up, of course. And we went to Hong Kong. Our daughter was living in Hong Kong, her daughter and her husband. So we took a trip into China and went into the capital of China. What's the capital of China? Beijing. Anyway, we went into Beijing, and there's where I walked 1.5 miles in the Great Wall, and come home after that, and I think I was 8 years old. I come home after that anyway. Then I walked from PEI to New Brunswick over the bridge, and I guess about 2 or 3 years later, I did half a marathon in Fredericton, 21.1 kilometers. That was pretty no. And then I come home and they had a walkathon here at the school. It was only 10 kilometers, and I walked it, and my hip went bad before it was finished, and that was the end of my walking.
George, you were born in Scotland and moved to New Brunswick on June 1st, 1931. Do you recall memories about your move to New Brunswick?
Yes, we boarded the boat at Liverpool, and we sailed here to Quebec. I think we took 4.5 days to come over. And when we got in Quebec, we got on the train and came down to Cody's. So we had a train going through there then, the Cody station. And the farm was ready for us. So that was all, the work was all done on that before we left Scotland. So it was all waiting there. And Harold Gamlin from Cody's, he met us at the station with the horse and carriage, and he took us down to the farmhouse. We stopped at Walter Acreage on the way back and on the way down and bought a wash tub. And that was one of those big galvanized ones with the hands on them. And that's what we took our bath in for, I guess, until we joined the army, maybe.
Cambridge Narrows Community School thanks you for your time to perform this interview. We hope you have enjoyed this experience as much as we have.
Well, thank you very much for that, but I've enjoyed it, I think, just as much as you have, and I hope you have enjoyed what I've told you.
That concludes our interview with Mr. McConnachie of Cambridge Narrows. This is Jeff and it's Corey. Thank you for this opportunity, a Legacy of History project.